Biggest game on Saturday. Michigan at Oklahoma, taking place in Gaylord Memorial Stadium in Norman, Oklahoma. Let's look at these teams. Okay, big headline here. Rod Moore is out at safety for Michigan. That's a huge loss. He's Michigan's best secondary guy. Really needed that dude in there to cover Deion Burks. Obviously, he's a safety, so he won't necessarily be a man all the time, but they like to use Deion Burks in the slot. Oklahoma does, so that's a big guy to miss. You got Countess Lewis to guard Deion Burks. That's tough. Michigan's offensive line, it looked good. There were some question marks before the game, going into the game against New Mexico, but they looked good against New Mexico. I don't think Michigan played all that well, but the O-line did play okay. Bryce Underwood, what's he going to be in a big-time game? This is the biggest game of his life to this point. Same with John Mateer, but John Mateer's been playing college football for a lot longer. Jam Miller, ran for, 157 yards, 3 touchdowns, I believe. Last game against New Mexico, dude's a stud. Oklahoma's going to have their hands full with him. And Marlon Klein, tight end, he had 6 receptions, 93 yards, and a touchdown against New Mexico. That's great and all, but you're going to need some receivers to step up, especially against a defense like Oklahoma. They're going to have a pass rush as well, and they have to contain John Mateer. Have to. The secondary is already a little iffy. I'm not saying they're bad, just a little question mark. You don't get much answered against New Mexico. And Rod Moore's already out, so what's it going to be? You're going to have some pass rush. They're going to have to contain John Mateer. You can't let him run around back there and give him 5 seconds to find a receiver because he'll pick you apart. Let's look over a little bit at Oklahoma. We already touched on it a little bit, gave some of the weapons out. Their O-line's a huge question. As of right now, I am worried about the offensive line. Could not run the ball against Illinois State. Obviously, Jay Knott wasn't playing, but Jay Knott is probably going to be on a pitch count against Michigan if he plays. So that's something I'm a little worried about, but this defense is just ridiculous. Secondary is really good, got some good backers, but my main thing is R. Mason Thomas and Marvin Jones Jr. coming off the edge. And you got Taylor Wine to back him up. I mean, that's a great pass rush right there. There's not too many teams that are going to be able to block that, and especially with Bryce Underwood being a young quarterback, I'm about to touch on to this. Brent Venables getting on him. Brent Venables is a great head coach. He's been around for a while. Defensive guy. He knows how to make people uncomfortable in the pocket. Okay, let's get into some of these key matchups. John Mateer running around, and Michigan's linebackers. I mentioned before, Michigan has some of the best linebackers in college football. Derek Moore, Ernest Hausman. Those are 2 of the best linebackers in college football who probably make up the best linebacking duo in college football. That's going to be a big matchup. Offensive line for Oklahoma versus Michigan's defensive line. Michigan's defensive line was good against New Mexico, but they're still unproven because there's a lot of new faces. What are they going to be? And is Oklahoma's offensive line, should I be worried? Are they going to prove me right for being worried? I guess we'll find out. Can Oklahoma make Bryce Underwood uncomfortable? Like I said before, pin your ears back, play coverage, go 2 shell, rotate to 3. I mean, it's just going to be a lot of stuff. Play with him pre-snap. Play with his eyes pre-snap. Get him thinking. I mean, this is obviously, I'm not a coordinator. This is stuff that Oklahoma's already going to be thinking about. But just from me to the viewer, in case, you're thinking about what could Brent Venables possibly be doing, I'd say if it was me, I'd be showing him a lot of looks where I'm rolling my star back, star position being kind of that nickel backer, that nickel back, moving him back and then walking him up pre-snap and just running a fire blitz and dropping my end and having a wall coverage 3-3 stack back there. That's kind of the things I guarantee would be going through Brent Venables' heads right now. And this is where I think is the biggest thing for me is Michigan in the red zone. If you look back at the Clemson 2018 national championship game against Alabama, Tua was eaten in between the 20s. But once it got to the 20-yard line and in, it was stout defense. Because Brent Venables knows how to cook in the red zone. Very bend don't break approach here. I think that happens. Okay, let's get into the weeds. Oklahoma is favored 5.5. It's a hefty line for a big game like this. They are at home, and their money line is minus 205. Michigan plus 168. The over/under is 43.5. Hammer it. You'll see some of my best bets. It's one of them. Impact players for Michigan on offense: Bryce Underwood, Jam Miller, and Marlon Klein. For Oklahoma, John Mateer, Deion Burks, and Keontez Lewis. Defensively for Michigan, Derek Moore, Ernest Hausman, and Jair Hall. For Oklahoma, R. Mason Thomas, Marvin Jones Jr., and Robert Spears Jennings. Okay. Who do I think is going to win? I got Oklahoma. I got Oklahoma in a close game, but a controlling win. Kind of what we saw with Miami. How Miami and Notre Dame was a close game, but Miami was in control the whole time. That's what I think is going to happen here. I believe Brent Venables does some things like I was talking about to make Bryce Underwood uncomfortable, to mess with his head, and I think it pulls through for Oklahoma. I think Michigan stalls out in the red zone a couple of times. That's just what I think is going to happen. Kind of like I said about Tua in that national championship game, I think Michigan kind of sees the same fate. So, I got Oklahoma winning a good close game against Michigan in Norman, Oklahoma.